viewers of the Gnostic channel. Today we'll make an astrological reflection about the sign of Sagittarius, the ninth sign of the zodiac. We last spoke of Scorpio, and now it's time for Sagittarius, the best of the constellation of Sagittarius, because as we said in the previous sign, we must learn to see the signs not necessarily as people. Of course, people manifest these attributes through their behavior, but actually it is something more than that. Each constellation represents characteristics of nature, characteristics or attributes of creation. And the constellation of Sagittarius represents certain aspects of life that we will better understand when we analyze the planet, the elements, and the opposite sign that correspond to Sagittarius, as we have done in all the previous videos. The sign of Sagittarius is ruled by the planet Jupiter, which in mythology is associated with justice, benevolence, faith, religiosity, and philosophy. And those characteristics and attributes are something that we will perceive in the character of the Sagittarians. These people have a certain affinity with abstract things. Highly ideal, Sagittarians are generally interested in philosophy. Given that Gemini represents the intellect turned to simple and practical things, Sagittarius, being the opposite sign, represents the superior intellect directed towards abstract ideas to great religious ideals. For this reason, Sagittarians are generally people who cannot live without having a motto for life, without having a philosophy of life, without pursuing a religious or academic objective, because academic study is also ruled by Jupiter and Sagittarius. It is common to find Sagittarians that achieve academic success in areas of history and philosophy, subjects that they find very interesting. We can also say that the benevolence of Jupiter is translated in the character of the Sagittarians. So they are people that when they channel these attributes well, are very generous, very kind, and expansive. Jupiter is a big planet. Physically speaking, it's a very big planet. And when we make the analogy with the natives of Sagittarius, these people are generally physically big, robust, strong, and they have a certain tendency to be overweight, when which they must learn to control their appetite. But in general, they're expansive people. Expansion is the key word. They seek to expand their horizons, to expand the possibilities of their life. That is why it is also said that Sagittarians love to travel, love to get to know exotic cultures, because it gives them the feeling that they are expanding their point of view. They're getting to know other cultures, and it is a sign of the traveler, the sign of the backpacker that goes out to explore countries and has the impulsivity of the fire element. We always must take into account the element that rules the sign. The Sagittarians are ruled by fire, and therefore they can manifest this positively as an energy of enthusiastic fire, which is a characteristic that all fire signs have. And positive characteristics of fire is the spark of enthusiasm that is shared to other people. And the element fire, when negatively channeled, as we've already mentioned, turns into anger, violence, and aggressiveness. Fire also gives an impulsive character that we can easily observe in people that are more typical Sagittarians. Some Sagittarians will be calmer due to other influences of the zodiac, but in general, Sagittarians are people that are very impulsive and end up doing things without thinking, by instinct, without planning. That's why they must be very careful with impulsiveness and seek to plan their life a little bit more, to think before speaking, to think before doing. Another characteristic associated with Jupiter and Sagittarius is frankness and sincerity. That is why it is very common for us to hear some truths from our Sagittarian friends. They generally have a blunt sincerity, and they need to be careful with that. Even though they have an innocence like a child in the spontaneous way they speak, Sometimes what they say can have a negative effect on the other person. It can be perceived as rude, so Sagittarians have to be more diplomatic, careful with the way they say things, and be less impulsive. If we observe the animal that rules the sign, it also helps us understand. The animal is a centaur, half man and half horse. So it is natural of the Sagittarian, the person ruled by this sign, to determine and defend which of these halves he will express more in his life. The superior, philosophical, religious side, or the inferior side, which is instinctive, aggressive, irresponsible, imprudent, crazy, and does crazy things, and ends up suffering the consequences. Another characteristic of the constellation of Sagittarius and of its natives is faith. As we said, the planet Jupiter rules religious ideas and religious feelings, so it is an attribute that can be found in many Sagittarians and people who have an influence of this sign. Whether it be in the ascendant or in other aspects, people that need faith in their life, people that have a positive way of thinking, who are optimistic, and along with that, youthful. Jupiter, the very word, has to do with youth. So there is a spontaneous and natural youthfulness in the Sagittarians, and it is very common that people of this sign remain young for their entire life, since their temperaments tend to be more jovial. Now, let's analyze the opposite sign a little bit. The complement, the two balancing each other. Here we have Sagittarius and Gemini. To see the characteristics that Sagittarians can learn from Geminis. Given that Sagittarius rules faith and religious ideals, it can be channeled negatively as fanaticism, as a certain pride or hypocrisy, when the person manifests this with a certainty that they are always right, and that their idea is the last word, and that what they think is the only truth. Sagittarians need to be careful in this regard, to not be those people who judge others and believe that they are superior, morally or religiously. The constellation of Sagittarius can be channeled with these attributes. So what can they learn from Gemini? The capacity for questioning, the capacity to learn from both sides and to question themselves. It is healthy from time to question oneself, our own ideas, because they have a tendency to be very secure, and sometimes these ideas do not correspond with reality. They are not positive or beneficial ideas. So there always needs to be this questioning from Gemini, this ability to extract good from bad and bad from good, to realize that life has two sides, to see that every person has two sides. Sometimes we love someone because we only know the beautiful side, and then when we get to know the other side, we can be disappointed. And Geminis always know these two sides and teaches us the knowledge that exists in seeing the two faces of life. That's why Sagittarians must seek not to fall into the innocence of blindly believing in people, or the innocence of sincerely believing in some faith, some religion, some idea. They should always seek to question and to discern in life. With this, we are done with the sign of Sagittarius. We hope that you enjoyed it, that it is useful for those of you who live with Sagittarians, and primarily for the people of this sign. And we hope you'll subscribe to our channel, and that those who are already subscribed will continue following our zodiac series. The next sign that we will comment here will be about the sign of Capricorn. We hope to see you there. Thank you.